Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Pure Procurement Cup, or Road to the ProcureTech Cup. I'm your host, Aerchain Demo, Pure Procurement Consulting Principal and Head Editor at the Pure Procurement Newsletter. I'm joined once again by my co-host here, Gabe Perez, Chief of Strategy at RiseNow, your partner to design, build, and operate next-gen procurement and supply chain operating models. How's it going, Gabe?
It's going great. How are you, Joel?
I'm good. How was your week?
It's good. It's good. I'm excited to learn more about autonomous sourcing. It's a hot topic that I think is so new that everybody's trying to understand how they can best use it in their organization. So excited for today's episode.
Very cool. And actually, that's a great segue into bringing Gaurav and Harsha on board. So we have Aerchain on the show today to demonstrate their autonomous sourcing solution. We've got Harsha, the co-founder and CEO, and Gaurav, principal advisor for AI procurement strategy. I think you guys are based out of Bangalore, if I'm not mistaken. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joel. It's a pleasure to be here. Harsha, you're on mute, I think.
Thanks a lot, Joel. Pleasure to meet you all.
Perfect. Thanks for being here. So let's bring up here the slides. So we've got the road to the ProcureTech Cup here. The journey continues. So Aerchain's on the show. We're November 8th. Autonomous sourcing is the topic today with the solution they're going to demo. And we've got a bunch of solutions in the next 5 weeks before we get to the holiday break. I'll have a couple little things prepared for you then as well, but I'll keep it a surprise for now. And then we pick up in January until March. And then in March, we'll have the ProcureTech Cup tournament on LinkedIn. So stay tuned for that. And you can find out more through the Procurement newsletter if you're interested in following the action. The agenda today, the same as always. So we'll start with a company overview. Gaurav and Harsha will show us their unique value proposition, their ideal customer profile for use of their solution, and then we'll get straight into the demo and give it as much time as possible. Then we'll flow into the Let's Get Real segment hosted by RiseNow. So Gabe will ask a couple questions that you're probably asking yourselves on the chat. And feel free, please, to chime in with questions as we're going through the show. I can see your questions. If you're in the chat, by the way, say hi. We'll see that too. And as you bring up questions, if it makes sense, we'll do them in the flow of the show. Otherwise, we'll bring them in at the end of the show here as we wrap up with the mapping of the ProcureTech market map. So just making sure that you understand where this solution maps overall to what's happening in the market. So that being said, Gaurav, I think we could go straight into the company overview if you want.
Thank you, Joel. Perfect. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Gaurav. I lead the sales function and solutions consulting function at Aerchain. I'm going to not bore you with an endless slide deck, so we're going to keep this short and sweet, and then hand over to Harsha to actually show you the meat of the actual solution. So I hope my screen is now being broadcast. Joel, should I go ahead?
Sure.
All right, perfect. So we are Aerchain. These are just a few high-level company stats. We're headquartered in Bangalore, as Joel mentioned. Since our funding, we were founded back in 2019, we've raised over $4 million of seed capital, and now we're a team of almost 100 employees, and consistently getting 300% year-on-year growth to really expand our clientele as well as our solution offerings. So we are funded by some of the leading venture partners in India. We've been recognized by Gartner, Forbes, ProcureTech, and Inc42, and we are integrated with virtually every other solution out there using a very simple open API structure. So if you have an ERP, if you have an existing source to pay solution already in place, we can just plug and play and maybe form an autonomous sourcing layer on top of that. We have every security certification known to mankind. So we're SOC 2 certified, we're ISO 27001 certified, as well as our entire ecosystem has been marked GDPR compliant. So that's just a high-level overview. In the last 5 years, we've dramatically increased the kind of spend under management which is being transacted on the Aerchain platform. So back in 2019, we started out, and then today we have almost $10 billion being actively managed on our platform today. We are deployed across 30 different countries, including some of the areas which have traditionally not been fast movers in technology adoption, such as India, Southeast Asia, Africa, and now we've got clients in Europe and the US as well. One of the key factors over here is that the solution is designed in a really, really intuitive, user-friendly way, which makes adoption both from the user side as well as from the vendor side extremely simple. So most people can just figure it out without any sort of formal training required.
And that's
Now diving.
Rob, sorry to interrupt. I was just
Yeah.
going to ask, like, you had 100K suppliers there, so that's always on my mind with these types of solutions. Is like, does the supplier have to create a profile? Like, is there onboarding that needs to be done, or is it just the number of suppliers that have used your platform?
No, well, these are the suppliers to our clients who are using Aerchain, right? So they have their own vendor bases already registered on the platform. And during implementation, we make sure that we help with the onboarding process. We train the vendors. So we make sure that all that headache is not really falling on the client.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, moving on. This slide is probably the one I want to actually spend a little more time on, because this talks about the pillars of what we call autonomous sourcing. So everything from request intake, enriching that, making sure that all the details needed for sourcing are captured effectively from the start. Then comes sourcing automation, vendor discovery. So the system will auto-recommend vendors from maybe your existing approved vendor master list or from the broader marketplace as well. Now, once the bids have been collected from the vendors, both commercial and technical bids, system is able to auto-evaluate these proposals from the vendors and actually say that vendors two's text response was better than vendor one's, and so on and so forth. Now, one step beyond that is autonomous negotiation. So you can basically program in a negotiation playbook, which has multiple fallback options. Do you negotiate only on price? Do you have what are the other terms and conditions, pricing, payment terms potentially that you could fall back on to actually get the kind of deal that you want with your vendors? So that negotiation, that autonomous negotiation playbook can be configured with hard, medium, or soft negotiation styles, depending on what kind of outcomes you want to achieve. And then based on that, the system has the ability to automatically award the contract to the vendor, and then basically smoothly transition into the vendor onboarding process. And then obviously from there to contracts as well. Now, at a high level, these are what we call the pillars of autonomous sourcing, and we do everything. Everything from auto-drafting your RFP, to auto-evaluating the vendor responses, negotiating with your vendors. That's what really puts the autonomous in autonomous sourcing. Okay, what is our unique value proposition? Now, no solution is good unless you have like really, really solid data backing it. So based on the interactions and the track record that we have with multiple enterprise and mid-market customers, we've gained a significant amount of category expertise, which has been built into the solution from a learning perspective. Meaning we have digested millions of RFPs, RFQs, and we know what, let's say, a professional services RFP. What are the questions? What are the technical questions that you need to ask? What are the InfoSec questions that you need to ask? What does the pricing table and the cost elements look like? So all of that can be auto-generated by the system using Aerchain's extensive category intelligence.
And if I can ask a question there, Rob, with 10 billion and 100,000 suppliers, you're definitely on your way to a critical mass. But what happens when it's still there's networks out there with lots of suppliers, lots of data, and you hit the nail on the head. The data is key. So what happens if the supplier is not in the database, or what happens if it's a category that you haven't sourced before, or you don't have a critical mass of data in? How does the system know how to fill in the blanks if the data, because it gets smarter as it goes, but there's going to be areas where there's new requests, there's new requirements, maybe suppliers, so are there internal and external sources? How do you handle those scenarios?
So good question. We've got both. We've got both access to the extensive category intelligence that Aerchain has collected, as well as a broader marketplace exposure as well. Meaning the system has the ability to maybe plug and play into any of these other networks that you're talking about, right? For example, in India, we're working with IndiaMart, which is probably one of the largest supply aggregators in the country. And we have the ability to plug and play into similar such vendor networks across multiple regions. So that's one aspect of it. And the system also is smart enough to just go onto Google and search for the item or service that you're looking for, and collect the intelligence and mine the intelligence that way. So we make sure that we're not just limited to the intelligence that we have today, but what's available on anywhere on the World Wide Web.
Great, thank you.
Perfect. One of the other key factors is the entire system is designed in a way that it's 100% you do it yourself. So with a simple drag and drop interface, you can create custom fields, custom validation rules, which is as simple as drawing a process flowchart, in your sketchbook. You have the ability to configure complex processes and routing rules, both for approvals as well as for multiple contract workflows. You can imagine all of that can be done by the end user or by the admins without having to come to us for any customizations. Omni-channel experience, meaning if you've got emails, if you've got WhatsApp, we don't really want the vendors to have to log into Aerchain every time to just submit a bid. They have the option of having an actionable email where they just put in their prices into the email body, and our system can automatically pull out that and pull that into the sourcing comparison table, right? And because of the architecture and how easily DIY it is, we have the ability to go live really, really rapidly. You can bulk upload your existing master data, your templates, and the system will automatically just bucket everything into the right place to make sure that the system is up and running and ready to go within a very, very short time span.
That's interesting.
Okay.
And so, who's it for?
Yes, who is it for? So our ideal customer profile actually is pretty extensive and broad, meaning if you're a small to medium enterprise and you're looking to source higher volumes, to source from more competitively from more suppliers with limited team resources, with limited human resources or sourcing team bandwidth, you can use autonomous sourcing as a kind of AI addition to your sourcing team, who can take care of most of the heavy lifting, which would otherwise occupy a very large chunk of your sourcing bandwidth. So you've got companies like, for example, DS Group, who's one of India's largest F&B manufacturers. You've got companies like WeWork. They're all working with us in multiple capacities. And then you've got the larger enterprises who are looking to possibly manage their tail spend or tactical spend without having to, again, devote valuable buyer bandwidth away from their strategic projects into negotiating for high volume but very low cost items, which is not a very good ROI ratio. So on that note, we're working with AB InBev, which is probably one of our largest strategic clients. We have a global strategic partnership with Infosys. Geo is representing the Reliance Group in India, which is probably India's largest corporation. So they're working with us today. So we've got an extensive customer footprint across both large enterprises as well as small to medium businesses.
And so what I'm hearing is it's really, trying to, based on what you were saying earlier, cross categories, right? Trying to be the sourcing solution for everything that could be required, right? And so, as we transition over here to the demo on Harsha's screen, I'd call it out to people watching, like, let's put that to the test, right? If you want to put a category that we can use with the demo in the chat, as Gaurav's bringing stuff up here on his screen, we'll challenge the folks to put that in.
Yeah,
definitely. So thanks a lot, Joel. Let me share my screen.
And actually, Adrienne's asking a question, but at the same time, she's putting a couple categories down. So I'll bring her question up, and I think it'll give us our category too. So she's saying, Gaurav, if the supplier submissions are not like for like and contained in email, how does the solution approach presenting them in analysis? For example, professional services or media, and different approaches to addressing the scope of work. And so I think, that'll what we can do is answer Adrienne's question by asking you guys in the demo, why don't we do a professional service, and we'll see it live.
Definitely.
I leave it to her. I think seeing is in the believing, and once you see it in action, that'll probably be more convincing than any answer I can give.
So Harsha, you're all good to go here.
Right. Thanks a lot, Joel. Thanks a lot, everyone. So like Gaurav has mentioned, it's all about seeing is believing. First thing, what I'll do is to take you through our guided journey to make sure how the intake all the way till negotiation happens for a professional services flow. And I'll take on some examples, whatever comes through, and we will try it out live on the system, right? So coming back, Airchain for the end users, for all the business users across the globe, right? It's a single interface to interact with the procurement with an AI assistant. So you have multiple agents which are packed into a single intuitive interface, wherein if you're looking to buy something, you're looking for just a negotiation for a quote which you have received, an onboarding agent, so on and so forth. So all the user will have to do is go into the predefined flows, and let's say, hey, what are you looking for today? There are multiple options here as well, wherein you go in for an existing catalogs, which are either integrated from your existing source to pay or P2Ps, or you can just create them right out of Airchain too. Say if you're not clear on what you're looking for, all the user will have to do is just chat with the system saying that, hey, I'm looking for so and so forth. You're looking for goods, you're looking for services. Once you put in, all you'll have to do is put in free text details saying that, hey, I'm looking for janitorial services. What system intelligently does that is to go through all of your existing catalogs, historical purchases, and gives you a suggestion on what is it you could directly select and raise a request for. So it's as simple as giving you results from your Amazon or a Walmart, right?
So
And if you're not
these, you said from the existing catalogs, are these from a material master, from the procure to pay system? And then what happens if their catalog data is not rich?
Right. So we have a way to, so you just can upload the way it is. I mean, one of the things about Airchain is you don't really have to train your data, clean your data in any way. The data, the way it is today, you can just upload it or connect it to Airchain. I mean, to a level, we have contextual search baked into Airchain, which means, let's say someone is looking for sodium bicarbonate, and someone is searching in, let's say, NaHCO3. It can understand NaHCO3 means sodium bicarbonate, and it will give you the results for that across languages, across context, and across a lot of things, right? So your data is automatically analyzed, cleaned, understood the way you're doing today. There is absolutely no need for you to clean your data in any way. It tries to pick up from your free text what exactly is the category, what are the attributes for that particular category. Example, if you're looking for a laptop, what is the specification, what is the make, what is the RAM, so on and so forth. Everything is extracted from your free text as it is. So from day one, you start getting this level of automation without having to train any of it.
Okay, thank you.
And to me, the difference
let's say if you're not.
Sorry, Harsha. The difference will just be that if I don't have much catalog data today, I'm not going to have very many options here, right? And I'm gonna go to looking for something else quite quickly.
Of course. So you do that. Let's say I'm looking for something else. Then it. So the first part of intake or the request is to make sure the requirement is understood and automatically processed, right? So for sourcing to be automated, for negotiation to be automated, or evaluation to be automated, it's really important the requirement is as clear as possible. So we ask very category specific questions in terms of, hey, what exactly are you looking for? And the user will just have to select from the available options, which the system is automatically giving, or, type in your response. Once you put in your responses, you just submit it. And from there, AI understands what you're looking at, summarizes your requirement, and in a single click, you can submit to and you can proceed to submitting a request. System is automatically generating the SOW, generating evaluation criteria, and seeing what is the cost structure it will have to collect the bids on. So in a matter of seconds, you're getting in the request, an SOW generated. How do you collect this quotation? I mean, you don't want to collect it in multiple formats from different vendors. System generates, this is what you need to do to collect the quotes with the exact cost and structure across vendors. And then it also gives you the questions. I mean, it can be as simple, like, 5 to 10 questions versus, a lot of long questionnaires. It is as flexible and configurable that way. And you can, system does all of it. Of course, you can make any changes the way you want. Recommends the suppliers, like Gaurav was saying, from within your historical purchases, or from the web, or from any other marketplace out there. System has the ability to extract all of it. And of course, the user can always add a new supplier if he wants. So in a matter of seconds, we have gone from an unstructured conversation to a structured request, with system doing everything in terms of the heavy listing, right?
And how does it work?
Submit.
If you run this process and you end up doing business, selecting a supplier that you have not done business before, how does it work with the customer's current onboarding process?
So once you see, I mean, once you're good with the technical as well as the commercial evaluation, and if you really want to onboard that particular vendor, it kicks right back into the customer's onboarding process, which Airchain onboarding agent can initiate seamlessly, either on Airchain or connecting back to your existing onboarding process on, let's say, Ariba or a Coupa.
Okay.
Right? So we are not skipping that.
And just by what you've shown so far, like, and what you were saying, Gaurav, earlier about the rapid time for implementation, I'm guessing like you have, as you mentioned, category intelligence to be able to, you know, out of the box do something like this, right? But at the same time, if I want to configure it, change it to my specific business rules, processes, what have you, you have the ability to do that as well, right? But I don't have an empty box that I have to populate at the start.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of course.
I mean,
of course.
one of the
I will
hardest
show
things is
that as well, how configured that will be just after this, right? Every single thing which you see on the screen is a drag and drop, and the flow, like example, if you're seeing, you know, who it goes to, who and all it goes to within your organization before it's actually sent out, right? It's a flow chart which you can build it on the platform, and it works exactly the same way. So you can configure it with your own intelligence as much as you want. So, like I said, it goes for approvals or updates or whatever else it goes in. And finally, I mean, depending on the rules you can set in, right? Most of our customers say, hey, anything less than 10,000, let's not review anything. You go ahead and do source it yourself. Anything between $10,000 to $50,000, let's go for a single check before you actually do that. And beyond 50,000, it comes for a review where they make the necessary changes they need and then goes on to it. So when you click this, the sourcing event is automatically triggered. A vendor receives the bid. He can, on a single click, be redirected onto the platform. This is the vendor interface you're looking at. And he can submit his bid and the technical responses very seamlessly.
And so you didn't have to log in, you didn't have to create an account or anything like that, right?
So there are two ways. Of course, once you log in, if you're a frequent vendor, you just need to sign up, set up your passwords with whatever protocols the customers have. If not, we send you a magic. If you're a one-time vendor, we just send the vendor a magic link, which is valid for a certain time. And if it expires, you can request for a new link and log in directly onto the platform. Again, we're talking, depending on the category of spend, we can control whether you need a secure way of bidding it, or, you know, an unsecured way is also sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
So once it is getting all the responses, technical as well as commercial, as Gaurav was explaining, system has the ability to evaluate all the responses, free text responses, which are coming in from the vendors, and see which vendor is technically better, which vendor is commercially better. And with all of this evaluation being done, system has the ability to generate the negotiation strategy specific to this category. I mean, what are the things I'm going to be negotiating on beyond just the price and the terms, right? We're talking about locked-in pricing, multi-year commitment, premium support, flexible license scaling, so on and so forth. So you have a lot of options to negotiate on, and using this, system sends a negotiation request again to the vendor, who will then have an option to either accept it or negotiate online. So again, a similar way, vendor is redirected onto a platform, and on a free text conversation, the system is trying to negotiate, understand what the vendor is looking for, try to go back and forth, make sure it is covering all the terms till it is meeting its target across multiple terms. And by understanding this contextual category nuances, it does try to meet as much as possible. And if it is not, it redirects it to the buyer. If it is, then it summarizes, hey, this is what we have agreed upon. Let's go ahead and close this deal. And you close the negotiation. It comes back to this one. And when you click on award, or the system awards itself, depending on the configuration, it will go back to your existing source to be, Ariba, Coupa, or an ERP for that matter. And the last thing which I wanted to talk about is, let's say, how configurable it is. Everything on the system here can be done by yourself, by creating your own departments, setting up your own applications. Like example, just a moment while we are loading this. So any form, whether it's a request template, whether it's a vendor onboarding template, whether it's a RFP template, You can design your own forms, define any level of validations which you would need across each one of this, and add any type of fields and put in the right kind of validations. So any form can be designed the way you want, and any workflow, starting from the initial request step till the final step, you can add tasks, define whatever kind of notifications, which is the user group who does this action, what is it they do, what are the filters to route the workflow correctly, and define each one of it seamlessly on the system. And from beginning to end, it's as simple as designing the flowchart. And once you do it, it goes to the respective stakeholders and they complete their activities seamlessly on the platform or on email itself. You don't really have to log into platform every single time for every single step. So if you just have to approve, you can approve it from your email itself. So there are multiple ways in which you can design the process and make it work for your system.
Very cool. And one question that maybe I can bring up here as we're transitioning to Let's Get Real here is Arjun asking, perhaps the system doesn't give you the exact right RFQ in one go. Is it possible to have a dialogue to improve the RFQ until you're happy with it? Or do you go straight to doing manual things yourself in the back end?
Of course, I mean, you can go back and forth. You can say, this is RFP. You can say, hey, edit this area of it, edit that area of it. Of course, you can. It's completely on an interaction. We can put any loops whatsoever and then make sure it is the right RFP before it's released.
Very cool. Awesome. So on that note, thanks so much for the demo, Harsha. And I think it's time to get real.
Great. So I actually have a question from the audience this week from Tanya Wade from KPMG UK. She talked about in terms of how do you make sure the data is right for the category? And she compared it to AI resumes, how resumes are now potentially getting rejected with the AI capabilities out there because, maybe a key word wasn't hit, maybe a key, phrase wasn't hit, but you might have actually declined a candidate that could have been a really good candidate. And I think this is one of the challenges with some of the AI negotiations out there. It even happens in baseball with scouting. It's where's the emotional intelligence part of it? How do you know that you're not missing something, that the tech didn't just do an if then or do an AI routine and not get it? So can you talk about that, how you ensure that you're not potentially missing some good opportunities that the AI may be not understanding because it's all technology and there's no human intelligence in it?
So one of the ways in which we do this is just give it a lot of context. You're not taking decisions on a binary 0-1, right? And that's where we start right from intake in terms of what has been the requirement and how close can we get in, right? So not missing the context is what is really important. And the context comes in from the organizational history, and let's say the interaction, what has gone till the point it reached the negotiation, and how the vendor has interacted with the business in the past. So it all depends on context, right? If you're giving in, and the context comes in with a lot of data, which has, like Gaurav has said, we have trained it on millions of RFPs.
And as Arjun just asked, you were talking about not getting the right RFP, and I know we're coming on time, so just maybe a real quick answer. Does it show the user what potentially wasn't included and why, so that they might be able to say, actually, I want that one to be evaluated further because they may have some information that's not in the system?
Yeah, of course. At every step, there is a review where we can say, hey, these are all the points and these are the areas which we are going to cover. But the user can always make a couple of edits saying that, hey, why not include this? Why not add this additional thing as well? So at all steps, what you're trying to do is spending few more minutes to cut down on weeks of effort to finalize the deal in the shortest time possible. So yeah, it's possible for them to tweak around.
Just adding on to what Harsha was saying, you saw how the AI was analyzing the vendor responses, right? It's not only analyzing and rating, it's telling you why it's rated that way. So there's a decision making and a logical audit trail going back.
Great. And Tanya, thanks for the question. And don't forget, every Monday, Joel and I post. We're always looking for Let's Get Real questions, and would rather ask one from you, from the audience. So shoot us a DM or look for our posts on Mondays.
For sure. And so let's wrap up here just with the ProcureTech Cup market map. So I don't know, Harsha or Gaurav, if you want to speak to what we circled here. We saw the sourcing in action. We saw the intake management in action. I had questions around the different agents that you have, but I imagine it's really context specific. If somebody else is using another intake tool, right, you can just be in the back end as well. So would you speak to how you interact with the rest of the ecosystem, where you're heading, your roadmap, anything you want to share on this slide?
So let me take up this question. As a company, we're going to be focusing primarily on autonomous sourcing as our development roadmap going forward. So while we have a lot of the other capabilities, which maybe aren't circled over here, for example, P2P, we have AP, we have an analytics engine built into the solution as configurable as a Power BI or a Tableau. But obviously, those are just supporting functionalities for what we see as the future of the company, which is primarily autonomous sourcing and everything related to that. So intake orchestration, process orchestration, all of that actually feeds into autonomous sourcing, because without that request being enriched at the source, the autonomous sourcing journey is not as smooth as you would want it to be. And wherever it interacts with the vendor, so the supplier onboarding, classification, qualification checks, due diligence, all of that is also available, but all in support of the broader autonomous sourcing vision.
Okay.
And I think back, we have native integrations for a lot of systems, right? Whether it's an Ariba or a Coupa, we just simply have approval kind of integration done in with this. And for all the other systems, we have an API first approach where we seamlessly integrate, and customer really do not have to struggle on how do I fit this into my ecosystem. It just plugs in right away without a lot of effort, and we take up all the effort from the client to make sure it's integrated in a week's time.
That's interesting, right? Because the implementation is always the tough part. And so I'm sure we could get into all these other conversations around multi-ERP instance or source-to-pay instance scenarios, and et cetera. But if people have those types of questions, we'll ask them to actually get in touch with you. And that segues nicely into my last question for you, which is where, if people want to learn more about Aerchain, can they get in touch with you? Where's the best place?
The best place is either just reach out to us over LinkedIn or go to our website, which is www.aerchain, that's AERCHAIN.io. And you can submit a request for a demo, or you can just directly book a meeting on one of our calendars through the website itself.
Very cool. Very cool. So thanks a lot, Harsha, Gaurav, for coming on the show today. Very much appreciate it. I'm sure, the 20 plus people watching live appreciate it also. Give some rounds of applause in the chat if you're still here with us. As always, if you want to follow the action for the Road to the ProcureTech Cup, you can subscribe to the Pure Procurement newsletter. So newsletter.pureprocurement.ca. Where you've got all the action there and much more in terms of best practices around procurement technology. And both Gabe and I with RiseNow and myself with Pure Procurement are in the consulting space for procurement technology, and them, RiseNow much more in terms of the advisory, the building piece, helping you deploy and then operate those next gen procurements operating models. So on that note, right, if you need any help, get in touch with Gabe and myself. So on that note, thank you very much for tuning in again. Episode 10, the journey to the ProcureTech Cup continues, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks again, Harsha, Gaurav, Gabe, everybody for being on.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.